A few weeks ago, I was kind of having a down day. I don't even remember why. Just something was eating at me. And then somebody showed up with a whole 9x13 pan of tater tot hot dish, which as near as I can tell is love in baked form. Right? I know it's not good for me on an earthly level, but on a heavenly level, I believe there is a God because tater tot hot dish exists, right? There's something so simple, something so accessible, and yet when it was made by somebody else, all of a sudden it had an ability to lift me out of whatever doldrums I was stuck in. And being a single person, a 9x13 pan lasted me a couple of weeks. So that was awesome. Right? And I don't think the gal that gave it to me even knew the depths of that gift. I think she was just doing for me what I've heard she does for a lot of folks. And just sharing that gift that she enjoys baking things, she enjoys making food for folks. And knowing that I'm a busy guy and a single guy, she thought that would be an appropriate gift. Right? And it really worked. Right? Because I think there's a deeper epidemic going on than the coronavirus right now. I think it's an epidemic of loneliness. Because the worst thoughts that I've had in my life have always been when I was alone, or thought that I was alone. Right? Those feelings of defeat only really come when we feel like there isn't someone standing with us. How perfect then that God introduces himself to us as God with us. And then he gives us his body on earth, the church, to continue and sustain that presence. Because let's be honest, we all have our Job kind of days, right? We were joking before Mass. Carrie said, are you going to talk about that first reading? I mean, that's really a downer, right? Literally the last line of it. People wonder sometimes, why are certain things in the scriptures? If religion is the opiate of the masses, then why do the scriptures have lines like, remembering that my life is like the wind, I shall not see happiness again. The word of the Lord? And we say thanks be to God to that. We do, and not in an ironic fashion. We say thanks be to God because we know we're not the only ones who have ever felt this. We're not the only ones who have ever been alone. We're not the only ones who have ever needed someone to reach out and give us that point of human contact that isn't just human but divine, because it's in God's timing when we needed it the most and they didn't even know it. Now, I'm not pretending that my life is anything like a guy whose children were all killed, whose goods were stolen from him by his enemies, and whose body was racked by every disease imaginable short of death. Right? Job is the prototypical suffering man because the Bible needed a guy like that. So that when Jesus came along and took on every possible human suffering, Job would have someone to look to and say, that's what suffering is for. Right? It's not for me to sit there and say, oh, woe is me. Suffering is there for me to offer it up to the Father with a purpose. Now, we have a hard time remembering that when we're all alone and we're stuck in that self-centeredness that suffering brings. So if I have one piece of advice on how to deal with anything, but especially our current world situation, it is go where the suffering is. And if you can't go in person, right, because maybe the person that you know who is suffering is in a care facility that's locked down for whatever reason, beautiful thing is now a lot of us carry around these little tiny televisions in our pockets that are linked to other tiny televisions in their pockets, and we can zoom in on them. We can make contact, right? Phones still work. We still have the ability to go and stand at a window and knock on the window and wave. And man, if you go to their window and knock on the window and wave today, when it's 20 below outside, and you're risking frostbite on your knuckles just to knock, they're going to know they're not alone and that you care enough to suffer a little for their sake. Right? This is what Jesus does for us. Even though he's tired out, he's had a long day, he was probably up most of the night, and then Peter comes to him and says, Lord, everyone is looking for you. I'm sure that some human part of Jesus was saying, are you kidding me right now? This is my me time. This is the time where I'm alone with the Father and I want to recharge. But that's not what Jesus says. That's not what he does. Right? The divine response to that desire of the human heart, because when we're lonely, we're looking for him. We're not looking for just any old face. We're looking for Jesus' face. And we look in a lot of the wrong places, let's be honest. Right? I know that this wasn't a new thing with the coronavirus pandemic because drugs have existed a lot longer and pornography has existed for a lot longer and all the other unhealthy things that we seek comfort in, alcohol, right? Meaningless, empty relationships, fake relationships, all of these other sinful, fake intimacies. What are they really getting at? They're trying to feed that need we have to be with. The need we have to be with. But Jesus' answer to that is to go where the suffering is. Right after preaching, he goes to Peter's house because Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. Right? He didn't go to the comfy place that would treat him the nicest. He went where the person who needed him was. As we read so beautifully in our office of readings this week, Jesus didn't heal every sick person in Judea, but he healed the ones that were closest to him. Right? He healed the ones he came upon. Right? There's this Catholic social teaching principle of solidarity and subsidiarity. Right? Solidarity, that when we meet somebody who's suffering, we have compassion with them. We suffer with them. But it's also subsidiarity. It doesn't mean that I have to go to the other end of the earth to find somebody who's suffering. I should first find the one closest. And if there is someone near me who's suffering and I'm the closest to them by relationship or geography or whatever, if I am the one who has the gifts to meet their needs, then I'm called by that fact to do it. I'm called to help because I'm there, or because I am their loved one, or because I am their person on whom they depend. Or it could just be that I'm the one who hears the call right now, and that makes me the one who has to get up and do it. I go and I visit the nursing home on Fridays and I bring communion to people. Right? And each of them is allowed a caregiver, an essential caregiver, to come and visit them. Right? Each person who is there is allowed that one visitor. And what shocks me is how frequently I'm the only one they see in a week. Right? So we can't just blame it on the system anymore. We need to be reaching out. There are people who depend on us. And you probably don't have to think too hard to know who that person is who you need to reach out to. Because guess what? The easiest way to stop feeling lonely is to go find somebody suffering worse than you and be with them. And I don't mean be with them to commiserate or to make it, we have this problem in Minnesota, okay? I'm just going to call us all out on it, right? We compete about suffering. That's why we live in Minnesota. Because our weather is colder, and we're better at sticking it out, right? Why do Minnesotans die in the spring when the weather gets nice? Because they're not going to let another winter get them down, right? So we have this tendency when somebody is suffering to want to say, well, it could be worse. Wrong answer. I don't want to hear about somebody else's suffering. I want to lift mine. Okay, there's two ways we can achieve that. We can give them a legitimate, honest to God, real reason to rejoice. Not a fake, made-up Pollyanna, the sun will come out tomorrow nonsense. Right? The sun coming out tomorrow does not make me feel better today. What will is a genuine reminder of God's gifts in the past. Right? That's why the scriptures have other suffering people in them. It's not just a book of happy, clappy tales to make you feel good. They're honest, real experiences of the ups and downs of humanity with God. So we can say in the past, everybody who has suffered throughout the scriptures, who has turned to the Lord, has been better for it in some way. So we can read Job to them Not to say, well, it could be worse, but to say, when it has been worse, God has still been there. And in the worst possible scenario that the gospel writers could cook up, when Jesus is hanging on the cross, even then, as he's being tortured to death, right, the lowest point in his human existence, Jesus Christ says, Father, forgive them, because they're suffering and they don't even know what they're doing. Right? What a beautiful moment that is. Right? So the God who's been through everything that we're going through, and whose heart breaks for every sin that we commit, and still loves us somehow, loves you in the midst of your cancer, or your divorce, or your whatever. And that's beautiful, and that's worth celebrating and being thankful for. So I'm not going to tell you to feel better because your current situation hasn't changed. But I might ask you to feel better because you know deeper down God does love you. And one way or the other, he's going to get through this with you. And even if it means him calling you home to himself, the suffering will pass. And heaven will always be there. And he will always be there. And if you wonder, that's why he sent me here today to remind you. Just by being with, as God with us is in us. And if you need a solid reminder, listen to the words of the Eucharistic prayer. No matter what you're suffering today, this is my body, which is offered for you. This is my blood poured out for your sins, those same sins you're suffering from, or those sins of another that you're suffering from. Right? This Eucharistic feast is the answer to that question. So if you run out of ideas, and they're so down in the dumps you don't know what to say, you might be able to say, well, at least there's the Eucharist. Right? Because the worst day of Jesus' life turned into the salvation of all humanity. And that God has never left us. So let's fight this epidemic with the perfect medicine, right? The physician of souls himself. By the extension of his body, the church reaching out, right, in compassion with others, and by bringing those who are in most need of him, as they did in our gospel, right, for his healing, bringing them to Christ at his altar, letting him lay his hands upon us and bring us healing and strength.